Welcome to another episode of Down the Barrel Podcast with Jimmy and Dino.
And sometimes Jared.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association and Wolf Report proudly sponsor this podcast. However, please note that the opinions, topics, and guests featured may not necessarily align with the views, beliefs, goals, or missions of our sponsors.
All right, so today we're here with Mr. Joe Cannella. Thanks for joining us, Joe.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome. Pretty cool. So, Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, just kind of a history.
Sure.
What Joe's about.
I am one of those, when you talk about everybody gets, where they came from in hunting, like grew up in a hunting family in the rural area and stuff, but I'm like 100% opposite of that. I grew up in the burbs of Chicago. I was a Chicago kid. I'm still a diehard Chicago Cubs fan. But when I was growing up there, I had some influences that brought me into hunting. My dad was a hunter, pheasant hunted and rabbit hunted, and my uncles and him had some land. But like a lot of people in Chicago area, the development was happening like crazy. I mean, when I was a little kid, I used to flush pheasants on the way to school. And by the time I got to high school, that was all streets. And so there's no pheasant farms, no corn anywhere, anything like that anymore.
I can imagine.
So my neighbors 2 doors down were kids from Tennessee. And they were genuine hillbilly kids. And we hit it off big time. And their dad, he still loved his firearms and stuff. And he got my dad, and they started taking us when we were about 8 years old. We started going to this local gun range out in Fox River Valley to shoot 22s. And then that graduated into shooting trap and shotguns. And then eventually we got back into hunting, and they took us, we went pheasant hunting and rabbit hunting and stuff like that. But being businessmen dads like they were, they only had so much time.
Right.
And kids growing up in a city, you could sit there and say, come on, we want to go hunting, Dad. We want to go hunting, maybe next weekend. Well, David was 2 years older than me and Don. And by the time when he turned 16, it was like we had the keys to freedom, right? So we set our eyes on west and started heading out to DeKalb and farm country and knocking on doors, and asking for permission to hunt. And if you've never had to do that, which a lot of people who grow up in rural areas, especially up here in northern Minnesota, they've never had to ask permission to hunt.
Yeah.
You get a lot of doors slammed in your face.
I can imagine.
Or you get the PETA arguments. And then every now and then, though, you get a farmer who looks at, well, sure, boys, have at her. Head out there. Just make sure you close the gate. And,
nice.
They teach you all that right stuff. And we found our spots to go rabbit hunting and stuff. And we found one farm, I remember, that we decided we wanted to get into crow hunting. And the farmer let us crow hunt out there. And then in one time we stopped by the house on the way out like you're supposed to do, and say hi and everything. And he said, you boys ever shoot anything other than crows? I said, yeah, I would like to. He's like, well, if you guys ever want to come back here for pheasants and stuff like that, you're more than welcome to. And so those were far and in between, but to learn that skill of asking for permission, oh, man, that was amazing to change when I moved to Minnesota, where that all of a sudden you got thousands upon thousands of acres to hunt. And, it was very different. But,
because nobody here will give you permission.
No, probably. I mean, maybe some.
I don't know.
But it's tougher. And especially, and even now, as you guys know, things have changed. I mean, there are some guys who would maybe gratefully give permission for squirrel hunting.
Right.
Yep.
But then there's even ones that who toe the line at saying no to that because they don't want you scaring their buck off their land.
Right. Yep.
So,
I know it's obviously different. Depends on what species, because I know a bunch of guys that go out, Thief River, Middle River area for goose. And they talk to landowners and they get permission to hunt that, but that's about the only thing that I know that's easy. I've been asking around some neighbors for years, hey, I know nobody really bow hunts on your property. I know you got rifle hunters that come in just for, family that comes in for a couple of days and then they're out. So it's like, can I bow hunt? I only want a doe. I'm not even going to take a buck. I won't do anything like that, but I'll just let me harvest a doe at least once, twice. But they go, no, we don't want you messing up our deer hunt. It's like,
I was hoping it was going to be a positive.
I know, but no. I haven't had any luck, at least in Minnesota. Now in Kansas, I've had luck with that. Yeah. Of course, it's also a little bit different because I knew all the neighbors. So they're like, oh, yeah, you can come hunt.
Yeah, and your neighbors have thousands of acres.
Right.
Up here, neighbors have a couple hundred.
And down there for, they wouldn't allow maybe necessarily deer hunting, but predator hunting, obviously, dove hunting, right. Pheasant. Of course, there wasn't too many pheasant, but quail. A lot of that around. So.
And sometimes those are those little foot in the door is where you get permission for something else.
Yeah.
But another story though that was I think you'd find interesting is when I was 16 at the time, and a buddy of mine was a trapper, and he wasn't a super serious trapper, but enough he got me into trapping coons and muskrats. Those were the main two targets. And there was a piece of property that I had permission to trap on, believe it or not. And I had to park in an industrial park to get close to the land, where the creek was that ran through the property. And that's what I was focusing on, catching the fur bears in. And one day I was coming out with my gunny sack full of muskrats, and I was carrying this old 22 single action bolt. It was a Montgomery Ward's.
Oh, I have one of those.
My brother has it. I want it back because it was so cool. The thing was accurate as all heck, but it's one bullet at a time.
I have one. It came from my dad, gave it to me, and I gave it to my boy.
Well, waiting for me in the parking lot was a deputy sheriff when I got to the parking lot. And this is about 1982-ish. And he comes out of his car and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I was just checking my trap line." He says, "You're what?" I'm checking my trap line. "You can't do that here." I said, "Well, actually, I can. I've got a license and everything." He says, You can't be trapping in this. This is a bedroom community. I remember him calling it. And I'm like, call the game warden. And he goes back to his car and you could see he's in there making phone calls. And then he comes out and he says, "This is ridiculous." And he just gets in his car and leaves me there. So I'm like,
this is ridiculous.
Well, what's so crazy about that scene was that place. If you go back there today, and I've been there many times, that creek doesn't even look natural anymore. No. And all it is houses and shopping malls.
Yeah.
He was all gung-ho worried about me trapping wildlife, and now there's no wildlife there at all.
Right.
Yep.
So those are the kinds of things that when you grow up in an urban area. I'm very sensitive to people, kids and adults, that live in metropolitan areas that try to be outdoors people.
Yep.
It's hard. And especially a parent who's trying to introduce a kid to the world of hunting and fishing. When our kids grow up around here, and I've raised 3 kids now, they can come home from school and jump in the car and go grouse hunting.
Yeah.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
I remember stopping one day on the way to work and taking some pictures of some kids. I got permission to take their picture and we wound up putting it in a magazine.
Yeah.
They were riding their bikes. They had their deer rifles, their blaze orange and their deer rifles, and they're heading north out of town here on 38. Nice. And I just thought, hey, way to go, you guys. Take it upon yourself. They're heading up to the Blandon properties, and they were going deer hunting. And they were like 14 years old.
Yeah, so, well, definitely take it for granted because I don't know how many times even, we'll have a half-hour drive home. How many animals we see. We see, deer all the time, seeing deer in fields, and you almost get to know the deer. It's like, okay, it's, 5:30. So this doe's going to be out with her fawn, or this buck I've seen, you kind of pattern them, even though they're not on your property, but you pattern on your way home, or how many times you've seen bear, wolves, eagles, coyote, everything. I mean, it's cool. And my kids get to see it too. And they and granted, now it's tough to keep their, eyes on out the window instead of on their phone. But when they're not on their screen, and I try to get them not to look at it all the time on their homes, like just look at what's going on in the different seasons. Urban kids, city kids don't get to do
Probably
that.
don't even notice.
Right.
It's just the challenge too. Think about yourself as a parent who wants to take your kid hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is an event. If you're going to leave the city to go an hour, 2 hours to a WMA or something, it's a planning thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We take it for granted how we can say, hey, after dinner, you want to go wet a line?
Right.
And boom, we're on a lake in 10 minutes.
Yeah, grab a gun, walk out back, go do some hunting. Right?
So it's a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, so those are the things that we're going to be up against always. But that was my world. And then when I moved to northern Minnesota, I thought I died and gone to heaven.
Right.
Because I'm like, holy, I could actually hunt all of this.
Yep.
I can do I could go berry picking. I mean, in those areas, think about that. If you pull over to the side of the road and start picking berries on somebody's ditch, you're going to get the cops called on you.
Yep.
Not here. Little old ladies out there blueberry picking everywhere.
Right.
But
I can't imagine.
no, you wind up appreciating those public lands. So I have a real warm spot in my heart for public lands because if it wasn't for knocking on some handful of private landowners who let us hunt, the other places that we would hunt were these state park organized pheasant hunts.
Okay.
That's what they used to have where I was growing up. And they were kind of real formal, but almost felt like, I don't know, like going to school or something. Everybody would have to get there at a certain time and they'd give you a big lecture and then they assign you a spot and there'd be a little flag out there where you could go pheasant hunting. And the pheasants were all released.
Right. Yep.
So it was kind of like pretend hunting in a way, but that's what we had.
Yep.
And some of the cooler ones, though, that was more of a tradition in Illinois and didn't get to be anything in Minnesota, was that we had dove hunting a lot.
Yeah, we did down home too.
Yeah, they planted the fields, so you would have your spot, and passing, shooting over the sunflower fields.
Okay.
That was cool. And I remember when dove hunting was first getting interested in people's minds in Minnesota and they were fighting for it, and how a lot of people who were hunters in Minnesota were like, why would you shoot a dove? There's no meat on them.
Right.
It's like, well, there's not much meat on one bluegill either, but that's why you shoot a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, exactly. You wrap anything in bacon, and that's good.
True story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and dove hunting that's tough. We used to hunt over ponds or on the riverbed. We'd sit on the edge of the river and they'd be going up and down. And man, let me tell you, you'd have to have a pretty good clearing to be able to pick them out as they're flying by. And then you get lucky if you hit one or two.
Oh, yeah.
That damn things are going 30 miles an hour, it seems like.
You have to bring a lot of shells when you go dove hunting.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. It's fun. But
that's one thing I've never done.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from northern Minnesota. So
true.
No, you have to travel.
Yeah.
But it seems like it was those excitement when it first came out, but I don't even hear anything much about it anymore.
No, you really don't.
Nobody's really embraced it. I mean, on the western side,
do we have doves up here? I don't even know.
We have them, but they're more like just kind of like how we have sandhill cranes.
Yeah.
You see a couple in the field.
I think at my place, I've seen a couple doves, but
we don't have the migrations but on the western side of the state they do.
I suppose, yeah.
But nobody plants. They had the tradition hasn't grabbed down. Like you go down south, or like you said in Kansas, people plant dove fields.
Yeah,
really.
Yep.
Oh, it's September 1 in the southeastern United States is like a holiday.
So, like, how many doves can you shoot in a day?
Oh, it's like. I don't. You guys got your book?
We got the Minnesota.
I don't know what Minnesota is, but
in
a lot of states it's like 20.
Yeah, right? It's typically a lot.
It's a lot.
Are they hard to clean?
No, super simple.
Are they?
Just like your typical bird, you just rip the breast out. And
is it white meat or
no? It's dark.
No, it's
dark.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just wrap some bacon around it, put jalapeno in it, and call it good.
Heck yeah.
That's about the standard recipe, right on the grill.
Good. That does sound good.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to look in this thing. To be honest.
So you think it's comparable to like grouse, but that's more white.
No, I think grouse is superior.
Oh, yeah, I love grouse. Outside of venison, grouse is my go-to. Yeah.
Grouse very rarely make it into my freezer.
Never, ever. I've never put a grouse in my freezer.
they get eaten.
Right into the back of the Jeep, into the frying pan.
Yeah, God, I love them. Absolutely love them.
Have you guys seen the these guys go down to Argentina and go dove hunting.
Yeah, that's a different kind of dove than we have.
Yeah, it definitely is. But that would be, I mean, they have a guy sit beside you loading your other shotgun for you. And I had a couple buddies go down many moons ago, and their shoulders hurt after the first day, and they had 3 more days. They would kill, I don't even know, I'm going to probably exaggerate, say they were there for 3 days, they'd kill 500 birds.
Oh, I don't think
and
that's exaggerating.
And there were 4 or 5 other hunters. They would each kill that many.
Yeah.
And then they just said it was a hoot. There was birds just all over the sky.
Yeah.
Wow. That would be
fun.
As long as you got to eat some good.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's a lot of, it's probably a spendy hunt. It's because it kind of comes with the luxuries of staying in a really nice resort.
Yeah, for sure.
Eating like kings.
Oh man, that sounds pretty good.
It would be an amazing event to go to.
Oh, here we go. Maybe this is something. Morning doves, September 1 through November 29. 15 daily limit. Possession limit is 45.
Yeah. So a whole bunch.
That's a lot.
And you probably got to shoot 3 boxes of shells to get this 15.
Right? Exactly. Sandhills cranes, 2 a day. I didn't know that either.
I got 2 living in my field though back.
I see 3 or 4 every day driving in.
I heard they taste like steak.
I heard ribeye of the sky.
That's what I heard. I've never had one.
I got to hunt them up in Manitoba once.
Yeah.
When I worked for the National Wild Turkey Federation, we had a chapter a group of guys that called me that wanted to have a turkey chapter north of Winnipeg, which
they don't have turkey up there?
I know. It's like,
we just got turkeys here.
I'm like, okay. They actually have turkeys in Manitoba.
Yep.
The dirty little secret is, well, when I first went up there was a chapter in Winnipeg. Turkey Federation doesn't have Canadian chapters anymore, but they did. And they already had a chapter, and I went up that became my chapter. And I'm talking to them, just chatting and saying, how did you guys get turkeys up here? And they told me, well, we bought them from Minnesota. I'm like, you what? I said, no, you didn't.
Southern Minnesota at that time?
I'm like, say I bought it from a hatchery. They were
like
all
Tyson.
They were domestic.
Were they white turkeys?
No, they look. You could buy these at L&M.
Yeah, right.
I got 2 of them at my house.
A wild turkey, and that's what the Manitoba's birds were. And,
wow!
But they bred, and they became incredibly prolific. And one of the times I went up there, I had to bring the biologist from our area, from the national headquarters. He was a higher up dude, and we went there because he wanted to see it, because we're going to help them with their problems with the farmers. The farmers weren't really complaining. I actually blew me away, because when we went out to the farms and to see the damage, the farmer, I'd say, well, how many birds you guys overwinter in here? And he would do like a typical farmer and kind of look at his feet and kick the ground and say, I don't know, 200-300. I'm like, what? 200-300? I said, holy smokes. Doesn't this drive you crazy? It can be kind of a pain when they get into the silage and they're crapping in the silage and cattle's got to eat that. And so they were just pretty cool about it. But what we did for them, we would take these hog panels and make a circle and then put a big round bale in it. Actually, we'd put the round bale down and then make the circle. But it was a lot easier that way. And then you would take oats or rye or even grass, rye seed or anything like that, and just lay it on top. So the bale is, instead of the open rolled end, is facing up. So the layers, and you just smash down the seeds into that thing. The reason for the hog panels is it kept the deer out.
Okay.
Yep. And then the turkeys fly up and they just scratch. And one hay bale like that, laced with all this seed, can last all winter. And it kept the birds away from the farmers' silage piles. That was the idea. But the birds, I can't say that they didn't have fun hunting them. They weren't as stupid as I was thinking they were going to be.
Yep.
I mean, we had some fun calling to them and stuff, and they were a little less challenging. I could tell they weren't 100% wild, but they definitely were domestic. I mean, a lot of them were Merriams with the white tail feathers. So when I'm seeing them, I'm like, oh, that's not an Eastern wild turkey. But yeah, that was Manitoba. But I went off course. So why did I go up there? I was going up there to go crane hunting, right?
Right.
So this guy, they wanted to get birds even farther. And we were kind of not too far from the shores of, what's the big lake up there?
Lake Winnipeg?
Winnipeg, yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Well, anyway, they called me and they said, why don't you come up? And I got some guys we want to have a meeting and talk about a chapter, but as long as you're coming up, it's sandhill crane season. So we'll take you sandhill crane hunting. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
This will be cool. So they met me at the big sporting goods store down in Winnipeg, and got me all set up with my tee shot and all that stuff. And we went out that night and glassed is how we hunted them. The sandhill cranes would coming back to roost. We'd sat there and watched them with the binoculars, and what he was doing, he said, you see that brush pile, that clump of willow or something out there in that field? That's what they're all, if you notice, they're all flying over that. So tomorrow morning, that's where we'll be. We'll be sitting right there. And sure enough, man, that next morning, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cranes flew over our heads. I mean, it was cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, they do taste like ribeyes.
Crazy.
They are the ribeye of the sky.
That's what I've heard. Never had one myself.
They're good.
I haven't either.
Yeah. And they're fun to shoot.
Yeah.
One of two things happens. You hit them stone dead and they come down like a dart.
Yeah.
or you didn't, I'm not saying you're crippled. They're dying.
Right.
But they come down wings and
Got
legs flop like a shot helicopter. Yeah. Coming down. So sandhill cranes, pretty cool.
Yeah, we can shoot them in Minnesota, right?
Up in the Northwest, not around, not in your
we
backyard.
can't hear?
Yeah, don't do that.
Right. Northwest Goose Zone.
Northwest
so
Goose.
they're safe behind my house.
You got to read this.
I mean,
and you can hunt them in North Dakota.
okay.
Yeah. I knew you could hunt them out there.
They can do.
Although I think the natives can hunt them here.
Maybe.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Be.
I'm pretty sure they can.
I don't know.
That's how I think I had learned about the whole steak flavor thing.
Yeah.
So how'd you end up in northern Minnesota?
Yeah.
Went to school to get into natural resources.
Yep.
Though I didn't really know what that meant at the time. I just grew up in that kind of family where your mom and dad just tell you you're going to go to college.
Right.
Because they didn't go to college and they figured
somebody's got to. Yep.
Somebody should. So I remember how biology teacher at a community college I was going to school said to me, he just knew I like to do all these things. And I had a really good time in his class. And he said, you should go to Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I said, oh, yeah? Why? I think you'd like it. So I registered and showed up at the school and talking to people. And they're asking me, so what's your major? And I'm like, I'm new to this whole college thing, man. I had no experience.
Yep.
And I said, I don't know, I'm going into wildlife stuff. And they're like, oh, you're a CNR major. I'm like, a what? College of Natural Resources. Oh, yeah. And it turned out it's a pretty damn good school for College of Natural Resources. Yeah. Stevens Point became, it was a phenomenal school to go to school for that stuff. So I graduated with a natural resources degree and made my way to northern Minnesota. Yep. And at the time, there weren't really many field jobs open. So I wound up getting a job as teaching environmental ed and outdoor rec and stuff like that at a place called Mounds View North at the time. It was just north of Virginia. Yeah. They changed to Laurentian Environmental Center.
Right. Yep.
And eventually we have Fort Corn camps there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that came, via me.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but that's what got me to Minnesota. And then I met my wife. She was a student teacher at one of the schools that came to the facility.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, since I talked her to getting the job. So we were living together before we were even supposed to be living together type of thing.
Yeah, that's all right. That's
it worked out really good.
Yeah.
So our plan then, because my plan was always to get to Alaska.
Okay.
Right.
So I was trying to talk her into riding her teacher, certificate, because I'm like, man, they hired teachers like crazy in Alaska. Right. I'll just find anything to do. I don't care. I can pound nails, whatever. I just want to go to Alaska, but we never made it.
Yeah, I didn't either. I'd like to go to Alaska sometime, but I've never even.
It was always my dream too, but
at least take a trip.
Well, we all got we got a contact that's making it
exactly.
Right.
I mean, maybe we can tag along at least one of those
Dallas.
Yep.
Hint, become a hunting guide.
Yep.
I don't want to fish. I want to hunt.
That's funny. So public land was kind of, obviously something you love and do.
Mm-hmm.
And do you own some private land?
I do now,
right?
but
Okay.
I hunted public land pretty hard for a long time. And when my wife and I first got married, we bought a house, a little 3-bedroom rambler, and it had 55 acres with it.
Oh,
and
nice.
before we left, we bought the 25 acres next door to it. So we had a nice chunk of land, but then started having kids.
Yep.
Decided I had a job opportunity in Grand Rapids, so came over here. And my plan, or our plan, my desire, hope was, okay, fine, I'll move to town, but I really want to hunt land again.
Yeah.
Because that was growing up in the burbs of Chicago. My whole dream in life was to own hunting land.
Yep.
Right.
Live on it. I gave it up. But eventually I came around and I got 160 acres up north, southeast Cooch County.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I got a good deal, and it's a great diverse property. And now I've been having a heck of a lot of fun managing it for wildlife and timber and stuff like that. And it's a really nice diverse, it's not just a deer camp. We hunt bear on the property, and we've owned it since 2016, and we've killed 3 bears off of there so far.
Oh, nice.
And we hunt ducks on it because there's a beaver pond. We get woodies and mallards and occasional goose off of there. Grouse, of course. We've even set aside a couple weekends every year to chase snowshoe hares around too.
Oh, I love that.
That's fun.
I used to do it with the bow. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would be really cool.
Oh, it's a hoot. I love it because you go out there and the snow's deep, you give them a whistle and they stop looking for a second and you pound them.
Well, the thing is, I'll be honest, hares, they're okay to eat, but they're not like, I feel like I need to kill a ton of them.
No.
So
I only do it every 10 years or something, but it's a hoot.
Yeah. I usually, if I go, it's a 22 or my 32 cal muzzle loader is what I like to hunt them with, because it's just something.
Do it with the bow.
Yeah. That would be really fun. And I'm a traditional archer. That would be really fun. I could fling a lot of arrows and.
Yeah. Because I'm originally from up in that area. So.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah. You know where Togo is?
My camp is north of Togo, and it's near a place that used to be something, a post office box called Roush.
Oh, yeah. I know where Roush is.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm right down the street from Roush.
Yeah. Because I'm originally from Togo, I guess you'd say.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
How far away is that from the bear school? Is it Bear Lake School, or what was that?
Togo?
Yeah, the school that's up there, the old school that we drove by every now and then.
Yeah, that's right in Togo. That's right down the road from the junction.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not too far. So you must be you must be familiar with the old Russian church up there then?
Yes.
Yes.
That thing's cool.
Yeah.
I actually got to go inside there.
Oh, really? Because I used to have relatives that lived right there.
One day we were driving, and my son and I were driving up north to do something. It was in the month of August.
Okay.
And there was a lot of cars heading up there. And I'm like, what the heck? And they're all going like relatively slow. And I'm like, this is I'm not going to try to pass them all.
Right.
Well, anyway, they all pulled in at the Russian Orthodox Church.
Yep.
And I'm like, Jack, let's go pull in with them and see if they'll let us go inside there. And they were so welcoming.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, we come up here once a year. We have the church and to bring people up from all over the state, and some people of different, and have a mass. You're welcome to stay for the mass if you want. And they let us walk around inside the church. And
yeah, I don't know if I've shown you that before. It's got like one of those.
I think we've driven by
like
it.
pointed domes, like you see in Moscow.
We
might have driven by it.
We've driven by it.
Metallic siding on it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It was built in either the late 1800s or very early 1900s.
And there's a field right beside it, and that is the first place I ever saw I say wild, but pheasant.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Many
far
years
north too.
Yeah. And it could have been just released off a farm or something, but that's the first place I ever saw him wandering.
There's a pheasant preserve, but that's pretty far from there, to be honest with you. So it would take quite a journey for that pheasant.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
Dennis Udovich has got a place.
Yep.
And I know that one of the other deer camps by me has seen pheasants on their property on occasion, but
probably released. Yeah.
But yeah, that's where the camp is, and holy smokes, it's fun. I get a lot of joy out of going up there.
Did you bear hunt this year?
My son had a tag this year,
okay,
and he did not get a bear, but and he's chomping at the bit to chase bucks because he's got some nice deer on his cameras.
Really?
He's very excited. He lives down in the Moorhead area.
Okay.
And I won't say where he's seeing these bucks, but
Probably good.
neck of the woods, but really nice deer, and he shot a nice 11-pointer there last year with his muzzle loader during the rifle season, but he used his percussion cap muzzle loader.
Okay.
Nice.
So you're saying there's still deer up there?
In my neck of the woods, that at our camp.
Right. That's where his son's at.
However, at our camp, last year, I mean, we're not picky. You
can't be up there. No.
We just like deer hunting. It's right. That camp is a rifle deer camp. It's friends and family.
Yep.
And last year I shot a spike buck. My daughter shot a little spike buck. My son led a spike buck walk, and my buddy's daughter, Michaela, missed a little 6-pointer. Actually, it wasn't a little. It was probably a 2.5-year-old 6-pointer. So in theory, on opening day,
that's pretty good.
Out of 4 people, we could have been tagged out if we really wanted to be. Just yearling bucks. But I think that says something about our land management is helping.
Right. That's what I was going to ask. What kind of land management do you do to help keep the deer in your area?
The first thing we did was cut some of the aspen that was on the property that was needing to be cut. It was old. So we did 3 5-acre cuts, which is not a lot, but if you find a logger who's working in the area, they'll usually do that. They'll work it in, and that's what our guy did. He was in the area, and he's pretty close, so he worked at a 15-acre cut. So that's no big deal. And he cut some black spruce for me too. So the cutting is huge. Making a network of trails is really important.
Yeah.
And then last year I made 3 openings that are all about 1.5 acres in size. Because when you get a monotonous forest of just popple forest, you got to create edge.
Yep.
So the trails create edge, and then creating a wildlife openings create edge. And we created the openings. They were it wasn't like they were 100% solid forest. They had inklings of an opening. Like one of them was the old homestead where there was an original homestead on the property at the time. So I imagine that was maybe like some cattle grazing area or something. Trees and brush had grown in, but at one time it was an opening. So we basically reopened it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did the same thing with another one that was similar like that. Had somewhat of an opening, and we just mulch. We used one of the mulchers.
Yes.
I actually hired somebody to do this.
Okay.
So if people are interested in that, I mean, they're out there. And when I went looking, I actually contacted a company it was a logger down in the Duluth area. And he's the one who then, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from a guy named Cliff Shermer up in my area. And I knew who Cliff was because he was a logger, but he had since retired. But he said, I got sick of being retired, and he bought himself a couple of these mulchers. So him and his daughter started a side business. And the mulchers, the beauty of these things is it's wood chips when everything is done.
Yep. Yeah. They're awesome.
So you could plant right into those wood chips if you're not picky. I plant winter rye. So my 2 openings are planted with winter rye, and they probably will be for at least 2 or 3 years until I develop some good soil there. And then I can branch off or just stick to it, the winter rye. It's great stuff. And the other little spot, I've kept it as I'm just letting the aspen grow back there. But my plan is I had her mulch that. So now I could literally take my ATV with the pull behind brush cutter, and I'm calling it a perpetual browse site. Every 2 years, I'm just going to mow it back down and let the popple and aspen come back up. So it'll be 1.5 acres of browse.
Yeah.
So that combination with other little projects, planting trees, spruce trees, someday that'll be thermal cover. That's what it starts with, really, and I think if you do that, you can make things helpful. But as we all know, the winters kick the deer's butt. And
the winters are tough. Although last winter was not.
Last winter was amazing.
Yeah.
It was like there wasn't winter.
Right.
Right. It was the unwinter.
Yeah. And if we had 2 of those,
it'd be amazing.
We'd be back.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I lived in northern Minnesota during the winters of 95 through 97.
Yep. I remember those.
Those were terrible winters.
Yeah.
They kicked the deer's butts, but followed by those 2 bad winters, we had 2 mild winters, and then we had record deer harvests in the early 2000s.
Yep.
So I know everybody likes to get all upset about the wolves, and I can't wait to get to manage wolves. I'm starting to get back into trapping. I'll bring that up later, but someday we're going to be able to do that. But I still believe winter's number one, and the wolves keep things down and make things worse. That's my personal opinion.
Well, I think when things are down, they do make it worse for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
But just the excitement of being able to. I drew a wolf tag the very first year they allowed it, but I didn't get one.
Yeah, I think I had some cousins that did, and I don't think they got one either.
I didn't draw it for the deer. You know, I don't know if you remember, but there were two options.
Mm-hmm.
It was the deer season option. I didn't get that one. I got the January one.
Okay.
So my intention, or no, it was like December maybe. My intention was to, when I was muzzleloader hunting, have the wolf, because my buddies and I at the time on the North Shore, we go there for muzzleloader season every year. And back in that time frame, there were abundance of doe tags always available on the North Shore. So no matter how well our deer season was in other places, we knew that we could all get together and go muzzleloader hunt.
Yep.
And it was fun. I mean, and not many people did it. It was actually kind of comical because we would look at the harvest and there'd be like 13 deer killed in that unit. And we'd be like, we killed 9 of them. But what I'm getting at is somebody in our group always saw a wolf and close enough to shoot.
Wow.
Yep. And I've had some amazing wolf experiences before this. I had the tag in my pocket. I had one time we still hunted is how we'd hunt there. You let the snow get nice and deep, and we would almost always go the last weekend because that's when the deer migrate to the highway there. They come over the hill, they call it. And I was just by myself leaning up against a tree, and out of the corner of my eye, I see movement. And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wolves.
Oh, wow.
And the first wolf stops, looks right at me, and it's about 15 yards from me. And I got my muzzleloader cradled in my arms, just leaning up against a tree, and I'm just looking at him, our eyes locked. And he takes 2 steps towards me. And the other wolves were just kind of looking around like they didn't know what he was looking at, or she. And that's it. And then it turned and they walked away. And then out of the corner of my left eye, I see there was another wolf on this side of me.
Oh, wow.
They were that close. It was amazing.
I'd have changed my shorts.
No, you wouldn't. That's what everybody always says. And I was like, I never thought of fear, never crossed my mind.
Really?
It didn't. I'm sorry. Wolves have never been something to spook me. I don't like the idea of cougars. They make the hair on the back of my neck stand up, but wolves and bears.
Yeah, and see with wolves,
they do.
They scare me. I've had tracks in my tracks where I'm walking out, and it's like, and then they split off, and then I go back the next day, and they circled my tree. It's like, that's too close a comfort for me.
Yeah,
and especially when I'm archery hunting, when I rifle hunt, I'm not as worried because obviously I have a rifle. I can at least shoot and scare, but with a bow, I don't really have a whole lot of self-defense.
The thought never crossed my mind. Then I had another wolf encounter where I thought I was looking at a bedded deer. So I actually cocked the hammer back on my muzzleloader and was aiming at the bedded deer, and it stood up and it was a wolf.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, oh, shit. And I thought, what was so cool, this was way before hunting, there was going to be a hunting season. I thought, this would be so cool. If I could shoot this wolf right now, I'd be probably the first guy in 100 years to shoot a wolf with a muzzleloader. With a round ball, patched round ball.
Yeah.
I thought, so that's why I had that in my head. And when I got that wolf tag, I was hoping to be able to get one with a muzzleloader. I thought it would be so cool.
Yeah, I think during those hunts, I managed to apply once and I didn't get in. I was not lucky.
I don't remember. I don't think I ever applied.
I did. I don't remember. I think it was the last year I tried.
I don't know why I wouldn't have. I must have applied.
But I mean, growing up in the Togo area up north there, I mean, hunting since I was 11, we always seen tracks, but I had never seen a wolf.
While on stand.
I had to apply because we were hunting out of the plantation at that time.
Were we?
Yeah.
Probably.
That 12 and 13, 14. Yeah, we had to have, or I had to have applied.
Right.
I must not have got it. Otherwise,
I think it was pretty competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably was. I think it was more competitive for the ones who wanted it during the deer season.
Right. And that's probably,
That's
when
probably
I went
why
for it.
I got
Yep.
a little bit luckier to get ones, because they was calling that the Predator, or I don't know what they called it.
Yeah.
But trappers were also allowed to go
Yes.
into that season. And if I were to ever get the chance to do it again, I'd try to get a trapping tag.
Yep.
That's how I'd really like to get one. I've started to get back into trapping with the property. And last year I tried to catch bobcat.
Yeah. Any luck?
No. I got excited because I had bobcats on my trail cameras.
Yeah.
And wolves and coyotes. And I got really excited about it. And I'd never even seen a bobcat track. I had 5 sets out, but I was totally just learning.
Yeah.
Talking to other trappers that know a lot more than I do. Though they did say that last year, because of how there was no snow, they said that even the guys who normally get 5 cats right away struggled.
Really?
So, and I looked at the DNR report for the fur harvest reports, and the cat harvest was down.
Oh, it's probably harder to pattern them, just like everything else. There's nothing to really push them to a certain area or a certain corridor.
Well, it's even harder to find the trails that they're using.
Yeah.
Well, and the trappers also said the bottom line is too, they just weren't hungry.
True.
They had it easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Think about it. If you went out last year to try to shoot snowshoe hares, it was like shooting milk jugs and laying on the ground. You see this white rabbit hiding in the brush going, "You don't see me." I'm like, "Yeah, I do."
Yep, exactly.
I see you. So bobcat, but then what that turned me on to, because I was using those bucket sets and cubby sets.
Okay. Yep.
And with a 220 conibear. And I kept on catching weasels in the 220s.
Really?
Yeah. It'd be like, the thing would, it was
How
still
did they even
good,
set 'em
but it was
off?
like, how the crap did you, he get caught like on his back end.
Right.
So I'm like, weasels. Then I talked to trappers who said, dude, you always have to put a weasel trap box out wherever your bobcat sets are.
Okay.
Because this way you catch the weasel so it doesn't mess with your cat bait.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, so I made a bunch of boxes. I made like 15 of them.
Yeah.
And I started going after weasels, and I had a blast. And the
cool.
really cool news is the fur buyer just pays you cash on the whole. For if anybody out there is interested in thinking about getting into trapping, this is the time that trapping is. It's the easiest time to get involved in it, because you don't need to be an expert in fur handling and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Which is the trappers are the hardest working sportsmen there are.
Yeah.
You go trapping and you come back dog tired from running your trap line, and now you got to skin critters and flesh them.
Yep.
Well, if you got a lot of these fur buyers now, they just buy them right on the hole. So all you have to do is put them in the freezer. And little weasels don't take up much.
Yeah, they don't take up much room. Yeah.
And the going rate, I got $5 a piece for
For a weasel?
Yeah.
We're making weasel traps.
Right.
A weasel
So how much
trap,
are cats going for then?
I don't even remember, because I didn't catch them.
I got some cats by the house.
But not house cats. They don't give you any money for those.
If you start making $10 per house cat, the neighborhood's going to be
I'm in
exactly.
business.
So that led to beavers. I tried spring beaver trapping this year.
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun too. My son and I set out 15 beaver traps, and the next day we already caught 11.
Wow.
Beaver trapping is pretty easy to get into.
Wow.
All you got to do is get some traps, and this set they call a caster set, the bound set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get your waders on, get in the water, and make a bound set, and beavers come. And when it was funny because we finished setting our last trap, and we were hoofing it. We were walking along all these beaver ponds, and we were walking our way back. And the one of the first sets we caught trapped or set, there was already a beaver in
No
it.
way.
Nice.
And it wasn't a very big one. So we looked at each other, and Jack says, "Oh, let's eat it."
Let's see.
I said, "Yeah, why not?"
Why not?
Oh, freaking beaver's good.
I've heard that, and it might have been from Ranella or somebody like that, but I've heard it's pretty good.
Oh, it's good.
I guess I would have never thought. I mean, I don't know why.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, but
It's just a big old rabbit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Yeah, we eat the back straps and the hind quarters.
I will say that Dad, he was big into trapping back in the 80s. And I know I've said this before, and you've always made fun of me for saying this.
Yeah, probably.
I do remember my first beaver.
I think we talked about that a few episodes ago.
It was a monster. So yeah, I grew up with trapping beaver.
I've never trapped. I take that back. I've trapped coon back home.
Yeah,
because they kept getting in the cat food and whatever else, and we used to go hunt them in the trees, and we didn't have a dog, so we just go to where after wheat harvest or corn harvest, they'd be in the silos and getting everything. They'd be in the trucks and whatnot.
Yeah.
But we did trap a few of them. But we didn't do anything with them. We just, got rid of them.
Right.
Just because, and I think probably we didn't know how to skin them. And I don't think we really had any fur buyers. I'm sure there was in the area, but us as kids, 12, 14, it didn't matter. We're just out there having fun and just killing things.
Pretty much.
The thing is, trapping is so much fun. And I know that there's the people are anti about it. And even some hunters don't understand it. But it comes down to everything lives and everything dies.
Right.
Yep.
It's like.
And fur is useful.
It is. It's the most renewable resource there is.
It is.
So what I've always had this thought that we need to do more to increase the interest in fur in this country. I mean, I had written an article once for the Whitetails about how we're trying to get the chapters to have a piece of fur at your banquet to raffle off. And not just MDHA chapters, but Turkey Federation, Pheasants Forever.
Yeah.
If every conservation organization promoted fur at their banquet, because we all have a reason to do it.
Yep.
I mean, we got nest predators and all that stuff. And it's a shame that it might come down to us doing nothing but trapping skunks and coons just to throw them in the ditch because you need to do it.
I trapped a skunk the other night.
I mean, it's much nicer if we could trap them and they got a market for them.
Right.
Every ice fisherman should have a fur hat. Every snowmobiler should have a pair of fur mittens.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what the heck? Let's do it. And
I tell you what, it's way better for the environment than like your polyester gloves or whatever they're made out of. I guarantee it.
It's hard for those certain folks to understand it, but it is. It's a renewable resource.
Right.
And we can't look at coyotes, for example. Oh. Their fur is beautiful.
Yep.
And we can't, you can't control them.
Oh, no. God, no.
You got year-round seasons on them. And,
I see them all the time on my cameras at my house.
Yeah.
But isn't the price of coyote fur like way down? I mean, it's
terrible.
Almost nothing.
So I think that also, when that started taking a dive, I think a lot less people were doing a lot of predator hunting.
But it doesn't help when companies like LL Bean that used to traditionally line their parka with coyote fur,
now they
feel the pressure and now they go to synthetic, which is not doing what the coyote fur did.
Right.
It's frost free. World War II pilots had wolf lined parkas and on their.
It would keep them alive.
Yeah, it was there to keep them because it didn't get frost on it. That's why the natives in the North Country use that.
Right.
Fur's perfect.
Yep.
And it's just a shame that we can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned the coyote thing. There's a fur buyer that I'll plug him because he's in our neck of the woods here. Matt Carlson is who I sell my furs to. And Matt, that's the one thing he won't buy on the round is coyotes because it's not worth his time, unfortunately. That was last year, so he might change.
This is crazy.
Yeah, that's too bad.
So he still will buy the fur, he just won't buy it on the round.
Right.
Yep.
So you have to skin it.
You got to do all the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he can make the right money. But beavers and things like that, he buys on the round.
Oh, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a hardworking guy.
No doubt.
And there's other fur buyers just like him, too, across the state.
Yep.
So if people are interested in getting into it, I mean, weasel trapping in particular, I mean, that's what a fun thing to do with your kids.
That would be cool.
1 or 2 weekends a year. It's all you need, man.
Yep.
Go to deer camp for the weekend. And
I don't know.
I used to have a couple weasels cruise through my yard.
What do you use to catch a weasel? What trap do you use?
You start with you go and get one of those dog-eared fence boards from Home Depot.
Yep.
And if you go on YouTube, you could find the exact measurements to cut it up. So basically you make a box with it, right?
Yep.
Cut about a 2-inch hole with your saw,
Yep.
either a saw or a drill bit. And then inside you put a Victor rat trap.
That's all you use?
That's it.
Oh, wow.
And then behind that, some bait. And bait doesn't really have to be much of anything because it ain't going to survive to get the bait.
Yeah.
Right.
It steps in, it goes through the hole, and boom, it's on the trap.
I suppose rat trap.
So it's really the scent that brings you. You buy a little bit of weasel lure. You can get that online from Trappers Trapper Supplies, or like around here in Grand Rapids area, L&M carries it.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd be
So
cool.
rat trap costs you $2-3. The board costs you about $5. Your weasel trap.
Yeah.
And you're getting out in the woods and in the winter
Heck yeah.
when you ain't got nothing else to do.
I could set it up on my yard.
You could set up in your yard.
I
you
used
could-
to have them in my
Weasels in my
porch.
yard.
You got snow ears, you use your snowmobile, your four-wheeler,
Right.
or you just go for a walk. And if you're looking for places, what I caught the most weasels was around beaver ponds.
Okay.
The cattails and stuff like that.
Yep.
You know, all the little channels that the beavers make?
Yeah.
Well, last year, those things were awesome for walking on.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like little sidewalks. And all I did is kept setting, I'd walk so many, 50, 60 yards, put another box down.
Huh.
That was it. Simple.
Nice.
Some people, the real serious trappers they're car trappers, truck trappers.
Yep.
They just run them and just people don't realize this, but the road, country roads, county roads, the ditch is public.
Yep.
So you can just lay your weasel boxes
Right there.
So you just mark them on, know where they are at, or you could use your GPS, your Onyx, or whatever you got, and just take a drive.
So is that
Start
the
putting
best
out weasel
return on weasel? I mean, on fur is weasels?
A lot of people will probably say that. I'm like I said,
now,
blows my
I'm
mind.
still considered an amateur and just getting back into
Yeah.
this. But I mean, $5 was better than what they're paying for a muskrat.
That's crazy.
Now muskrats go up and down.
Right.
There's plenty of people who might be.
So what's beaver going for nowadays?
You are getting on the round like $20-$25.
Okay.
Okay.
And so if you did the fleshing and all that yourself, according to what Matt was telling me,
Yeah.
you're only going to get about maybe $5-10 more.
And that's a lot of work. I remember
So
stretching.
it's-
And that was a lot.
A lot of the serious spring beaver trappers, they just have a good relationship with a fur buyer, and they fill their pickup and
Yep.
keep on dumping them off.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
And man, there's a lot of beaver out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a pond on our property, but I don't want any more ponds.
Yeah.
So like one of the other little creeks on my property, when that water was running, I've always said someday a beaver's going to try to get this one.
Yep.
And this spring, I happened to
one
go.
showed
I was driving, going with the wheeler, and I'm coming up to it, and I'm like, "Whoa, that's got a lot wider than it was last week."
Yep.
Sure enough, there was 2 little dams just already started in that creek, and
Yeah.
had those guys got evicted.
Yep. Yep.
I did not want another pond in that
Right.
area.
Well, exactly.
Where the pond is, it's one of the nicest habitat features on the property.
Yep.
But you can only have, you can only give up so much land to the beavers.
Yeah, exactly. I know even down home they have issues with beavers, and it's like, there's times that they do really good because they hold water for a pond and everything, but then there's other times to where they're destructive.
Yeah.
Or they'll ruin good grassland and good timber and everything, to where you can. There's definitely a give and take.
Also,
with
access. It could really mess up your
them.
access.
Yeah. Yep.
If you only have so much access to your land, and then all of a sudden there's a pond there, what are you going to? You can't have that.
Yeah.
But bottom line is there's lots of beavers. So I mean, even the pond that I want to maintain as a pond, I was still able to take 4 beavers off that pond.
Wow.
And there's still beavers on that
yeah.
pond. I was just out there building, brushing in my duck blind this weekend, and the beavers were out there. So they're still there.
Jeez.
Yeah, I always want there to be beavers there.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
At some point they're going to run out of aspen that's close enough to their proximity.
So then they'll move on, but could be a while.
Yeah, so I might lose that pond eventually because, there's no food. There's no food.
Yep.
But popple grows.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you tend to be more of a traditional hunter, right? Traditional archery, more of a traditional muzzleloader.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like my saying always was, it's not if I get a deer, it's how I get a deer.
Yep.
And that's just, it doesn't mean I don't hunt with a rifle. I
Right.
still enjoy, I got a 30-06 like everybody else does. And I still enjoy that too. And if it was up to me, I'd get, have a tag for everything.
Yep.
But no, I really like that. I started traditional archery hunting in college. A college roommate he grew up in a family in southeastern Minnesota, and that's all that his whole family and the whole valley, that they were all trad bow hunters. And he had this bow, and I just kept on picking it up and stepping outside our door and flinging arrows with it. I'm like, man, Bob, this thing's cool. I really like this. And I was in the game for a new bow because my compound was getting kind of old, and I was like, man, I want to get a new bow.
Yeah.
And I went to the local bow shop, and the guy started talking to me about how I needed a release, and I needed this is 1988, 89, and I'm shooting with fingers. And that's all I knew how to shoot with. And I'd been on a couple bow hunts with friends who forgot their release. And I'm like, too bad for you, dude.
Yeah.
Right.
They couldn't. So I was like, I don't want to release. I don't want to go there.
Yep.
So he's talking about all this and the expenses. And remember, at that time, the overdraw was a big deal.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It was a short-lived thing, but it was a
Yep.
big deal. You had this rest that came back on
Yeah.
compounds, and you'd shoot these 22-inch arrows or so. Yeah, it was called overdraw. It didn't last long because they were super light. So kinetic energy-wise, I think that they probably penetrated
Right.
terribly or something.
Yeah.
But it didn't last long. Well, anyway, I'm talking to the guy, and he's just showing me bows, and I was like, it just kind of got disillusioned, and I said to myself, I'm going to get a trad bow. And I went to a different archery shop that had them, and that's when I bought my first bow, but a trad bow. And I actually screwed up. I made a mistake because I really didn't know what I was doing. I bought a 60-pound trad bow, and I actually could shoot it, but only for so long.
Yeah.
And then you get exhausted. I shot league with it and everything, but I would always fall apart. I'd be shooting really good,
Yeah.
good. And then the last 10 arrows, I'm like, man, I got nothing. I'm spent.
Yeah.
There's no let off on those.
No, there's no let off. So eventually I learned to shoot lighter bows and enjoyed that. And, my kids all started shooting trad bows. My daughter shoots, she got busier in life. She shoots a compound now. My other daughter didn't really get that interested in archery. And my son never has shot a compound. All he shoots is recurves and longbows.
That's cool.
Yeah. There's something fun about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not putting down any other people's stuff, but like shooting trad bows is a sport in itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just plain fun to shoot the bow. You never hear a trad bow guy going, "Oh man, I got to sight my bow in. Bow season starting in 2 weeks." That's not how it works. He's been shooting his bow for months because it's fun.
Yeah.
And that's why I do it. And it's self-imposed limitation. I mean, I've not ashamed to admit 20 yards, that's a long shot. 15 yards is what I really like.
Well, guys, I think there's a lot of guys with compound bows that, 20 yards, 30 yards is a long shot.
Right.
So, and that's what I like about archery itself. I never really, I've wanted to get into, traditional, but on the other hand, it's like, I don't even practice enough with my compound. So, but that's one thing I like about archery is it's more old school, and it's fun. I love going out and just shooting in the backyard, 20 arrows or whatever in the evening. And, can't do it with a gun as easy without texting neighbors like, hey, by the way, I'm going to be shooting, 20 rounds, let alone I don't have the facility to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But with archery, you can.
Yeah.
That's the cool
and
part.
even the people who live in the cities and stuff, there's archery ranges that
Right.
within close
That are
proximity
easier.
to most people, whether it be an indoor range or an outdoor range. But yeah, for us, we step outside and we shoot.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have a ladder stand up in my trees and spruce plantation, and with half a dozen 3D targets. So,
and that's the
really
cool
fun.
part is the 3D targets.
That's
You start getting those over the years. And it's just, and that's why I like going out to Itasca Archery in a few 3D ranges, just because it's so cool to be able to do that.
Right.
So that's what's nice
it's
about
the
it.
best way to practice.
Yeah. Yep.
It's perfect. I mean, you're learning to pick a correct spot.
Somebody should come up with a 3D range for rifles.
Well, they could have like a metallic target range. Would be really fun. Yeah. Some people do that for those a little bit of that in the muzzleloader world, not animal targets so much, but they do walkthroughs on a trail with steel targets.
Yep.
Just a ding.
Yeah.
So you do a steel target about the side of a pie plate. Yep. I was actually thinking about putting one of those together on my property, just for fun.
Cool.
Walk one of the trails and just have them hanging in the tree.
Yep.
Just be fun.
I've even wanted to do those silhouettes. You see the iron deer or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
To where it's just that perfect shot. That otherwise you're going to wreck your arrow. I've wanted to make one of those, but I don't want to wreck my arrow.
I've used them a lot. There used to be a really cool shoot. It still exists. Every Father's Day weekend, it's called Coon Rapids Archery has it. They started the trad archery shoot. They used to have a traditional archery shoot, and they still do. I shouldn't say they used to. They still do. But at one time, it was super huge. I mean, like 700 archers would show up for this thing.
Wow.
Camping and everything.
Yep.
So the camaraderie about traditional archery was really cool, too. That was another part that attracted me. When I first moved to Grand Rapids, the guys that I met them because they were all trad archers.
Yeah.
And we're good friends till today, but that was what connected us. Happened to be at that shoot. I'm like, one guy was wearing a Grand Rapids t-shirt, and I'm like, hey.
Right. That's funny.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Traditional, just the history and stuff like that's appealing to me.
Yep.
The historic aspect of trad and muzzle loaders. I don't like dress up in leathers and stuff like that.
Don't just wear a loincloth out there hunting.
No, but there's people that do the reenactments, and I always find that stuff pretty cool. But I like that stuff and playing around with making your own arrows and turkey feathers, turning them into fletchings. That's really fun. Sharpening your own arrows. I mean, broadheads. I mean, not a lot of people know how to do that anymore.
No,
I buy mine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But you can sharpen those still.
You can.
Yeah. But that all adds to it.
Yeah.
But in our day and age, sometimes you're at a time in your life where you just don't have that kind of time.
Right.
Or dedication.
Exactly.
Well, and
that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and that even kind of leads into, take care of your own deer, your own animals that you harvest, processing it on your own or taking it to a processor.
Yeah.
I don't process my own deer. I take it to a processor.
I used to do it more, but with the warm weather anymore, it's just so difficult.
Warm weather, time, facility. Time, I guess I can't say time because you can always make time. But facility, ease of doing it the right way, that's where I struggle with. So it's like, I'd rather have somebody else do it the right way and I just push the easy button, honestly, but yeah.
I enjoy doing the processing, but now I have an extra little, my buddy Trevor is, he's got a side job as a butcher.
Oh, there you
that's
go.
Helpful.
So
yep.
we just really just tell him how great of a job he does. So every firearm season, the deer go home. Right, It's like, man,
hand him a beer.
Last year
like,
you were so good. I've never seen steaks cut so well.
You were so good,
so nice.
You probably are the best
processing. Again, if you got the time, But it's something that's fun. I used to always have my sausage made at the processor, and then I learned. I started getting into making it myself.
Yep, I'm going to start getting into.
I haven't made that leap yet.
I haven't either, but I've got a small dehydrator now and smoker, so it's like I want to start making some sausage. Just give it a whirl, start small and then go from there.
But those processors do make amazing stuff.
Oh yeah, they do.
I mean, so there's a reason to do it, and I get it, and especially if you're. I mean, think about all the folks that live in a place where they just can't hang a deer.
Right. Yep.
I mean, it's convenient for them.
Yeah.
And at least the deer's getting used.
Yeah.
Right. They're not letting it go to waste.
Absolutely.
Because I've had lots of deer that I've shot and it's 60, 70 degrees outside and I just can't hang it. I don't want to put it right in the freezer immediately. I like to hang them a little bit, let them age.
Oh, I hear you. This was a bad example of a processor, but I was hunting in our other family's deer camp over in the Zirkle country, and it was one of those warm openers, and I shot a buck that morning, and I'm like, man, I don't want to go home.
Right.
It's opening day. I was still here at deer camp. So I took it to the local processor, and I remember pulling up there with my truck, and there's this heaping pile of deer.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, yep, just throw it on that pile. And I'm like, on the top? I'm like, what the poor son of a gun is deer's on the bottom of the pile?
Yep.
That one might actually stay cold.
Yeah. Well, all I can tell you is that deer meat never tasted good to me. I had a psychological thing in my head.
Yep.
And I just didn't. So I started packing large cooler every time for deer season that I freeze bottles.
Yeah.
If you to get away from ice, just freeze the bottles.
Keep 'em dry.
Have that cooler just never, nobody opens it. That's the one that's just for having ice.
Yep.
And then if you have to, we quarter the deer up.
Yeah.
And put it in a cooler to just, and then this way it doesn't get wet. You don't want it to be soaking in water. So that keeps you at camp.
Yeah. We had to do that one year for one of our buddies' deer. It was so warm. We ended up quartering up. Well, he actually took it home to process it himself, but it was easier to get it home in his car. Yeah. Yeah. We quartered it up right away, and it was hot that day.
Cooler. Yeah.
Threw it in a big cooler.
Yeah. When opener is, and it's, 60 degrees out.
Yeah.
And we've had a few of those.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, we could let them hang for days and they would be frozen solid.
Right.
Not anymore.
Nope.
Things have changed. I agree. I remember like a few years ago, it wasn't too long ago, just a few years ago, my daughter had shot a buck on opening morning at the shack, and I skinned that one and put it in a cooler. And then the next day, Sunday, it was like 70 degrees. Oh. And I'm sitting in my stand, and my son wasn't too far away, and boom, he shoots. And I look at my watch, and I look at the thermometer on the temperature on my phone, and I'm like, oh, man, I guess we're done.
Yeah, we're busy for the rest of the night. Yeah.
I mean, I don't like that.
No, I don't either.
You needed some cool weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know last year my son shot a deer in youth season, and it got up to 70 degrees the next day when I got the deer, and I was like, man, I have to get this into a freezer. So I was driving all over the place trying to find a freezer, and turns out half the places around here are closed on Monday.
Yep.
Which was a Monday, unfortunately. And I did find one, but I think I'm going to build my own freezer now.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of YouTube stuff or read some stuff to where these guys are, using those
AC units.
Yep. And then they found this bypass.
Yep.
So where they can get them down.
There's
cooler.
kits you can buy kits on
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a switch.
That's what Trevor has in it. He built a room with it's basically foam board type of it's a walk-in cooler, and it's just off of an AC. And if you do it right, it passes code. His is it's
if he does butchering.
His is an official butcher shop, so it's official. So whatever it has,
I need to do that, because then I'd probably process my own deer more.
Right. Then you can do it when you have time. You can cut off, you can cut off the hindquarters. And
I can wait a day or two when I have time and then go out there and cut it up, because I love bringing it in the house, and the family helps me cut it up. I mean,
it's so much nicer to cut chilled meat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's just nice when it firms up and everything. And
well, you build that, and we'll start processing at your place.
Yeah. I was looking at it the other day. I totally want to do it.
And I just threw out an air conditioned unit.
I think I got one downstairs.
An old one. I know it didn't work, so it probably wouldn't work.
Yeah, but they're not that expensive.
No. You spend a couple $100.
You get window mount.
And I was looking on, Facebook Marketplace, and there's all kinds of people selling these old freezer insulated wall things.
Yep.
So you can build your own however you want it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The most expensive part is probably making the door.
Yeah, that's where it's nice if you can find an old freezer door or something.
Freezer doors, that would be probably the most expensive part, and it probably still wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Right.
If I had enough garage space, I think I'd do something like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that big to hang one or two deer.
No, that's all you need.
Honestly, it'd be way more efficient to keep it smaller. So
yeah. Yep, exactly.
So how many kids do you guys have come still that are participating in the youth season?
Well, just my boy isn't.
Yeah.
My daughter did. Obviously, she's older and in college now, but now it's just my boy who's 14.
Yeah, same thing. My daughter's 18 now, so she doesn't get to participate anymore. But she was successful her very first year, and so that was pretty cool. And then my boy last year we weren't successful, so we're hoping this year.
Did he hunt with you then in the regular season as well?
He didn't. No, because, and I don't know why. We were going to bring him out one day, but I just figured, you know what? Let's stick to youth for right now. And we weren't seeing a whole lot of deer anyways during regular season. So we actually saw, and where we hunted at for youth season, we saw deer every night. It was more or less kind of pick what you wanted to. And then where I hunt, where we hunt, it's not pick and choose. It's, oh, hey, there's a deer. We better shoot that one because we might not see another one.
Yeah.
So I didn't want him getting discouraged by not seeing deer enough, especially the first couple years.
Yeah.
So this year we're going to a different spot for youth season. So we'll hopefully be able to harvest one there.
See more deer.
Yeah. Yep.
I like it. My kids, they got to participate in the youth seasons.
Yeah.
But it was back in the time when they were limited in areas. It wasn't the whole state at that time. But dropping it to 10 years old, that was a big deal.
Yep.
And 2 of my kids got to participate at that, started deer hunting at 10. I mean, I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd already killed a couple deer by the time they were 12 years old.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, my daughter, when she hunted, she really didn't get hunting until 16, 17. Well, COVID hit, so that really kind of put a dampener in it. And then Aiden, we waited till four-corn camp. I mean, he's shot guns for a while, but it's like, you know what? Let's wait till you get the camp experience, see if it's really something you want to do. He's always been interested in archery. We got him a little bow years ago and whatnot, and he loves to shoot, but I wanted him to wait just that little bit longer, just be able to have that experience and have, just be a little bit older and have that mindset.
It's up to the
just
parents.
to do that. Yeah.
You're the best judge.
I mean, I actually didn't really officially hunt till I was older. I mean, I didn't get into deer hunting until actually I moved up here for a whole lot, because by the time I was old enough, Dad had already shot plenty of deer on the ranch, and then we were actually leasing it out, so we didn't have the opportunity. So I mean, we hunted birds and coons and whatever else, but didn't really deer hunt until I moved up here.
I think
so it's different.
Yeah, I think not cutting your teeth on small game is sometimes a disadvantage to a lot of kids too.
Right.
Yeah.
I cut my teeth on small game. I didn't go deer hunting until I was I started bow hunting for deer when I was 16. I didn't kill a deer until I was 19 with a rifle.
Okay.
But as far as kids go, I mean, you got to get them out there small game hunting. I was a firearm safety instructor, like lots of people are, and it used to drive me nuts when I would come to the shooting portion and the kids sticking a 22 rifle under their armpit, and I'm like, you never fired a gun before,
right.
And you're going deer hunting in 2 weeks.
Yep.
I'm like, what the heck? This isn't. And it was funny when they lowered the deer hunting age to 10. It was hilarious to me because I was on a couple steering committees for the state for planning that involvement. It was an R3 kind of thing.
Yep.
Before they called it R3, but it was amazing to me, even people on that steering committee who did not know that their kids could hunt small game before they got their firearm safety.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, these are people that they did the double look at you like, wait, what? I could have taken my kid hunting whenever I wanted? Yeah, you could take them out in the squirrel woods when they're 6 years old and have them sit on your lap and go squirrel hunting.
Yep.
There was this illusion that you had to be 12 years old to go hunting period. And it's never been that way, and it's still not.
Right.
And when you think about it, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be able to do that, but probably the more dangerous forms of hunting are things like waterfall hunting when you're this close to somebody else in a duck boat.
Yep.
I mean, in those of us who've taken our kids out those area ages, man, we really harp on gun safety. You know, that's where you learn zone of fire and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And being in a boat or in a duck blind together, it's about, okay, are we standing or sitting? We always talk about that. I still do that every time I go out with somebody duck hunting. When the ducks come in, are we standing up or are we sitting down? And you got to agree, because you don't want one guy to stand up and the other guy shoots when he's sitting down.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy stuff. But I think that allowing parents to have that opportunity to judge for their kid I think that's helped a lot.
Yeah.
If you could get a kid, and it's your choice, but if you could get a kid interested in hunting before 12, I think you're have a better chance of making it part of their life.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And then have it be a positive experience.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, by, don't take him out there and,
freeze him to death.
Freeze him to death. Or we're going to give Billy, he's going to shoot a 30-06 for his first gun. Or we're going to take him bird hunting and have him shoot a 12 gauge.
Yeah.
And he weighs, 80 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that happens a lot but I see more and more people, even with younger kids, they come in, they'll buy a 410. The kids will start out with a 410. And then, kind of like, I know that's how we kind of graduated up, 410, 20 gauge. Then eventually, I mean, I don't still like shooting a 12 gauge, but I do it, but I prefer 20 gauge. And I think, letting those kids grow up with that, or even, starting with a 22, small calibers, and then work their way
rifles.
Up, air rifles. Yeah, exactly. BB guns, greatest thing ever, to start with.
Yeah. Well, and air rifles today, holy smokes.
Yeah, they're pretty serious. Yeah.
You can get an amazing air rifle that's accurate and go out squirrel hunting, or heck, a lot of kids hunt grouse with 22s would do just as well hunting them with an air rifle.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, just for, if you were okay with ground swatting grouse, I know that's an issue for some people, but
not an issue for me.
Me neither.
I went through a stage where it was,
Yep.
when I was younger, I was taught wing shooting only.
Oh.
But as I got older, I started thinking, when it's appropriate, wing shooting only. Like with dogs, I'm always wing shooting.
Oh,
for sure.
Wing shooting only. But no, I like to taste the grouse.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
I see them in the frying pan when I see them.
And to me, they're just woods chickens.
Oh, man.
And I don't mind doing that.
I just want them in my belly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. Well, I think we'll do a part 2 coming up here. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks or something, to where we can kind of get into your MDHA involvement,
Sure,
a little bit more, and
sure.
some some whitetail stuff, and just kind of getting into some of that, because I think we kind of covered a good first part here. So
we don't want to keep you too long. We're over an hour now, so well, we appreciate it, Joe. And next time we're gonna get into some work talk and maybe some controversial subjects.
What I think is cool is your beginning. You started in
Chicago. I've never heard that
now
before.
You're all the way up in northern Minnesota, and now you're hunter, landowner, everything. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's kind of a cool story.
Successfully carried it on to another generation,
right?
Which is the biggest thing these days.
Biggest pride,
and that is not easy these days.
No,
it's very challenging.
It is challenging.
And like I said, I think from my standpoint, where my kids grew up is a big part.
Well, yeah, it has to.
So I feel for the parents that are trying to do that in urban areas, suburban areas. It's just harder to do.
And if you're in Minnesota and you're having that struggle, look up Forkhorn camps.
Yes.
Forkhorn camp is like getting a master's degree in firearms safety.
Right.
Yep.
The kids have a blast.
Yeah, that they do. It's a great program.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Hey, don't forget, click that like button, subscribe. Yeah. Check us out. We will, we'll get you back here pretty soon, so we can
for sure.
get a lot more to talk about. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
No, thanks for swinging by, Joe.
Appreciate it.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association has been building our hunting and conservation legacy over the past 40 plus years through habitat, education, advocacy, and legislation in Minnesota for Minnesota.
The views expressed by Jimmy and Dino and podcast guests are solely their own and do not represent the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association and Wolf Report.